everyone, and welcome to Actors in Conversation. I'm your host, Monica Bowman. Today I have a wonderful actress, yoga instructor, just an incredible human being, and a two-time Jessie Award winner, Annabel Kershaw. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm very excited.
Hello.
I'm very honored to be here.
I'm super happy to have you. I'm super honored. So I think we'll just get right into it, because I know you're not from Vancouver originally.
Right.
Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Toronto. I was born in London, England.
Oh!
Yeah, my mother was British, my father was Hungarian.
Cool.
And he'd been sent to England. He's Hungarian Jew, and his parents had sent him to England before the war broke out.
Okay.
That's people go, what war? And I go, the Second World War. Yeah, way back. So he met my mother during the war. At the Albert Hall, which is in that room. Yeah, they were both like classical music aficionados. And my mother, I must have been quite bold actually, because she saw they didn't have a program, and in England you have to pay for programs, right? So she offered to show, to lend him her program. Would you like to see my program? And anyway, so that's where I was. They married, and that's where I was born. Obviously after the war.
After this.
And then they moved to Toronto in, when did we come? Like the late 50s, I guess.
Okay.
And my father worked in advertising, and my sister and I grew up there. And then, yeah, I was seized with some kind of adventurous spirit, mostly due to the fact that my boyfriend was coming out here. So we got in a Volkswagen van and we drove across the country and landed in Vancouver, and I was like, wow.
Like, I'm gonna stay.
I'm staying. So that's how I got here. Why I stayed and how I stayed and everything is a whole other story.
Whole other story.
Yeah. I didn't stay with that boyfriend, but yeah. So that's how I got here.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So you have you've worked on so many things in such a long career. You started acting in the 70s. Let's just start with what got you into acting. Where did it start for you?
Oh, it's
the big question.
Yeah,
always.
the big question. How did it start? And a lot of people fall into acting, but I always knew that's what I wanted. I was either going to be an actor or a writer. I love to write as well. And as my parents were supporters of the arts, so I was exposed at a very, very early age to everything.
Oh, amazing.
I don't think it was with an eye to like, let's get her into it, but arts, appreciation of the arts was huge in my family, huge. And so I do remember going, and I was really little, and there was very little in Toronto at that age. At that time, there were no theater companies. I guess the National Ballet, there was a National Ballet, but there was very little. And there was a startup company called the Crest Theatre, which many, many famous people came out of that theater company. And they did a production of The Christmas Carol. It was a musical production. I still remember it so well. I remember this, like Scrooge and Marley, and he was like, Marley was like whirling his ball and chain, and Scrooge was jumping over it as they sang. Anyway, at the end of the show, there were all these kids in the show, which I thought, oh my God, there's like kids on stage.
Kids acting.
And they ran out into the audience at the end and, shook everybody's hand and said, Merry Christmas. I could smell the makeup. I could smell the grease paint. You would call it grease paint in those days. It was probably those old Leichner sticks.
Yeah.
And I just remember the smell, and I remember the energy, the hairspray. Yeah, there was like, and I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And so I just was always pretty dramatic.
I
From
was
an early
dramatic,
age.
let's be real.
Yeah, I just loved it. I loved going to the theater. I went, again, at quite an early age. I went to the Tarragon. I went to Theatre Passe Muraille, Toronto Workshop Production, all those theater companies that were just starting up. And so it was real kind of fringy type theater, right? I also went to Stratford, and I just loved it. It was just what I wanted to do.
That's amazing. Because you went on to do so many credits with the Arts Club, specifically here in Vancouver, and a lot of musicals with them. So you sing. You sing Do We Dance?
No, I'm moves well. Like I actually, once I get the choreography, I look pretty good, but I don't pick it up like a real dancer just picks it up. You know, you've
Yes, I dance.
You've danced training. You know, there's a language, right,
Yeah.
of choreography, and I really wish that when I was little I had done it. I had taken ballet or taken. There wasn't that much. Like I was saying earlier to you, you either did ballet as a little girl or you did ballet, or you didn't. Yeah, that was
You
it.
didn't do jazz.
And there
you did
wasn't.
dancing.
Yeah, there weren't the same kind of, even in Toronto. You know, not like that. You know, there's the drama camps and the musical theater camps and the arts umbrella type of thing. There wasn't any of that in those days. So. The training wasn't there. If you wanted to be an actor and you were a kid, there just weren't the opportunities to learn it really, you know? Like now you have art schools. You can go and, you know, you can have schools of the performing arts for kids, and you don't have, we didn't have that then. So that's kind of hindered me as a musical theater performer, no question.
For sure. So let's then go right into some of those Jessie Awards we won. One of your first one was for Aunt Dan and Lemon.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, first of all, a little bit about the show, Aunt Dan and Lemon?
It's written by Wallace Shawn, and who's well known for My Dinner with Andre and The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
You know who he is, right? This is an exciting story actually because it was a co-op. It was Pie Theatre, which was in those days called Pink Ink. It was 89, I think it was. And I wasn't going to do it. Like, I just thought, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'd done some co-ops, you know, and I knew how much work they were. But I read the script and I went, this is a phenomenal piece.
Yeah.
You know, Wallace Shawn is very political. And there's a lot of depth and I was also known as kind of a lightweight. You know, it was funny because I didn't start off that way, but I was known in the theater communities. Oh, she does musicals and cute little comedies, you know?
Yeah.
So I hadn't really had a role that I could really, really meaty. And it was an incredible, great people, and it was just an amazing piece. But the really cool thing was that Wallace Shawn was in town shooting a film.
Oh, man.
And we thought, is there any way that he might come? And we were all, anyway, so one night somebody went, oh my God, he's here. And I could see it, like I peeked out and there he was like in the corner trying to be, you know,
like nondescript.
Inconspicuous. No. And he's sitting there in his little, you know, because he's like a little gnome, right? And he came backstage afterwards. He was absolutely gracious and wonderful and delightful. And I found out where he was staying, what hotel he was at, and I sent him a note thanking him for coming and saying that if he had time, and I probably didn't have time, but you know, if he would like, we would love to invite him to my house for brunch.
Oh, okay.
And he came.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I lived in a little thin, they were called thin houses. There aren't very many of them. And I lived in this little thin house, and it was quite cool. It was April, but we sat outside and on the patio, and he's like, and he just had the most wonderful stories.
Oh my God, that's so incredible.
That was really amazing, amazing, amazing. Whether I'd won the Jessie Award or not, but winning the Jessie Award was like definitely the icing on the cake.
Yeah, so. You're like, amazing, first kind of meaty thing, and like they're like, yes, you're good at it.
Yeah.
Because then your next Jessie Award was quite a little bit later for The Elephant Man.
Yes.
So what character did you play on The Elephant Man?
So Mrs. Kendall.
Okay.
And this was directed by Sarah Rogers. Again, another co-op that I went, oh, am I going to do another co-op? And it was actually funny because I always joke and say, yeah, you'll win a Jessie Award if you take your clothes off. And because there's a nude scene in it, right? She takes her top off. And I thought, you know, when Sarah said, you know, yeah, I'd love you to do it. And I'm like, yeah, oh, yeah. But she said, but, well, you know, there's this nude scene. And I'm thinking, oh, I'll just turn my back. I'll say yes, but then I'll turn my back or something. You know, I'm like,
it's fine.
Getting past this, right? And it's Pacific Theater. There is no back. There is no back, you know, because the audience is on both sides. So
Like there's no back.
there's
to
no
turn
back to turn to. But I remember I got extensions. I thought, well, maybe if I get extensions,
It'll cover me.
they weren't quite long enough.
You clearly need to do
Yeah.
more co-op jobs. 2 Jessie Awards
Right.
later, you need to do
right.
more.
And I have to say too, like, I've done lots. I've done some big shows, but honestly, it's the smaller stuff that I love. I really love doing. Even though, like, I say to my husband, I said, don't let me do another co-op. It's so much work and there's no money in it. But they're always the most rewarding, really.
Yeah, and I think because sometimes they just pull out some of the best scripts out of those ones, and they pull out just like people that are passionate about working on it. They're
Yeah.
not there for the money.
Yeah.
They're there because they want to be on it, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That is so funny. Congratulations on your second Jessie.
That's right. Yeah.
You were like, yes. So you also played Sarah on Guys and Dolls.
I did. Yeah.
That's an iconic show. You've worked on a lot of iconic shows, with Guys and Dolls, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, all that kind of stuff. Do you go about handling a show that's that well known differently than you go about handling a newer play or a less well known script?
Because people are so familiar with the character, and it's like, especially something like Streetcar Named Desire, right? Gosh, that's a good question. A lot of people will not, they're like, I'm not going to watch the movie, and I don't want to see anybody else, and I'm not quite like that. I'll steal.
No qualms. I'll see what they do, and if I like it, I'll take it.
Yeah, because even if it's not going to be the same. It's not going to come out the same. Guys and Dolls, I'd seen the film, but I never really think of it as a film. I mean, it is a film, but I always think of it as stage
musical
production. So, My Fair Lady, I think people think of I always think of the film with that. But Guys and Dolls, I didn't really have a lot of reference for it. I don't know that I'd actually ever seen it.
Okay.
But I knew the music. Right?
Yeah.
I definitely knew. I knew all the music. Oh, you know what? I did it at camp. I remembered it from camp. Like when I was a little girl, I don't know what I was, 13 or something.
That's where it started.
So that's how I knew the music. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Because that's definitely they're just like big shows to work on. It's quite more. But I like that. They're like, I'll steal. I'll watch it.
Yeah, but I would say not so much. I'm just trying to think of other. Yeah, I just don't worry about.
You don't worry about it.
I don't worry about or trying to recreate what that sort of definitive production was with some star, which isn't like me anyway.
Exactly.
Who isn't.
It's a different person.
It's a different person. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think our styles are different too. Like now we approach things differently than maybe the 40 years ago. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Tell me about your transition to film. Because you've done quite a lot of film work more recently. So where did you kind of step into those kind of shoes?
So when I first started, there was no film in Vancouver. There'd been a couple of feature films done here. There was the Beachcombers.
Yeah.
So my very first thing ever was
The
the Beachcombers,
Beachcombers.
of course. And yes, it was very exciting. There really was, a commercial would come into town and everybody would audition for it. And it was funny because, again, you get out of theater school and there were 3 agencies in town. And basically you took your photo and your resume to all of them.
Yeah.
You didn't go, this was my agent. You just took them to all the agents and you were with all the agents. It wasn't like, no, it was really weird. There was Amalgamated Artists and I can't even remember anyway.
Totally.
It was very, very different. And then I guess things really started to open up when Jump Street. That was one of the first TV shows. When the studio was built in North Van, the Cannell studio, it was Stephen J. Cannell in those days. And so one of my first credits was Jump Street.
I saw that.
But there just wasn't that much. So it's like and I would say that, gosh, I've probably been doing film, I guess since the 90s. I would say like the early, when was my child born? Yeah, because I remember I was doing a series when I was pregnant. And then, so I would say probably the early 90s, I started to think, this is something that you actually can do. There's enough now that you can do
that you
more
can
and
make
more.
a living, or you can actually just like work on it consistently.
But I always thought of myself as a stage performer. Like I always felt like I was a little bit of an interloper in film. I still feel a little bit like that.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, like it just, well, my love was always theater. And you could put me on a stage anywhere in the world and I would feel completely at home and know what I was doing.
I love that.
I feel more at home on a film set now than I used to, but I still feel like my, you know.
Your roots are kind of like buried in theater.
I still smell that grease paint.
And you're like, I love it.
I want to be that kid.
Because on the topic of the series you worked on, you were playing Dee Brzezinski on Sḳwx, which is one of your first, looks like one of your first kind of like big credits there.
Yeah.
Let's just start telling me, how nervous were you to start working on like a big film production? Or do you think it kind of just floated off your back?
No. That was a really fun one. That was the kind of role that I didn't usually get put up for. Like she was really out there. She was kind of sexy and sassy.
I love it.
You know, it was funny because it was really about a Jewish boy, right?
Who's growing up.
Yeah, and I was like the Catholic Polish mom, but I'm half Jewish. So it was funny because in some ways I sort of feel that I'm more Jewish than I am Catholic Polish, but. Anyway, I had a really good time on that because of the character and the period, because it was, what was it? It was early 60s, I guess it was.
The show itself was set,
Yeah,
like the 60s, 70s.
The show, unfortunately, there was that show in the States, I'm going to forget the name of it now, about a kid. It was
a similar concept?
A similar concept, but it wasn't the, you know, there wasn't the Jewish thing, but it was, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, it was the same time period.
Oh.
Yeah. This was a CBC co-production, and like it was a great show. I think we did 2 seasons, and yeah, I had oh my God, the clothes and the hair, and it was really
getting
fun.
the chance to work on like a period piece and just live in that, because you filmed both seasons around the time your son was born.
Yeah, so the first season, it's funny because I have like this bikini scene, I'm like, and then the next season, I'd had my baby, but I worked really hard. I'd lost a lot of the weight, and I took him on set. He was just a few months old, and I was a little nervous because I thought, I'm bringing my baby to set, you know, and I never got to hold him. I mean, he just got passed around the crew.
Like I don't even know where he went.
Yeah, people were really amazing. So I was really sorry that series didn't go a little further. It had been a movie. There had been a movie. It was called The Outside Chance of Maximilian Glick. And it was shot in Winnipeg. And so the TV series came out of that film.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. That's really, really cool.
That's 30 years ago. Oh my God.
You don't look it. And I say, you look so young. Oh, you came in here, I was like, oof. I want to look like that when I'm older.
Yoga.
Yoga, yes. Oh, quick sidebar. Tell me about your yoga. You're a yoga instructor.
Yes, I am. You know, that's talk about a big transition. So I'd been in and out of yoga for a long time. I mean, as a teenager, I used to, you know, we used to fool around in my living room turning upside down and, you know, this is a yoga headstand, you know. And then I guess and I did yoga at theater school, but it was, you know, there wasn't that much of it. And then it was all aerobics. So I was a gym rat basically for years. Yeah, I did lots of aerobics and stuff. And then I went on a yoga retreat with my sister. She dragged me to Mexico. And my children were small, and I was like,
I'm leaving them.
I didn't even have a passport. Like, my sister turned up at my door. Like, this is like a sidebar story, but I hadn't been out of the country for years. And I was a nervous wreck with little kids. She turns up at my door at 5 in the morning to get this early plane, and I'm like, I'm sure I forgot anything. She got your yoga mat. Yes. Do you have your, your ticket? Yes. Do you have your passport? And I went, passport? And she went, passport.
To fly.
Well, remember, this is pre 9/11, so you know it wasn't. You didn't have you need your passport to go to the States or anything. And I went, passport? And she went, passport. And I went, She said, well, what did you think? I went, well, I don't know. I thought it was like going to the States. I don't know where my head was at. Anyway, she said, never mind. And I went, well, what do you mean never mind? And she said, well, what do you have? And I don't know, driver's license. So in those days, like if you didn't have your passport, we got to the airport, they would bring in a notary public. And you said, yes, I'm a Canadian citizen. They stamped this letter. And that's how I got into Mexico on my first yoga retreat. I was a total mess leaving my kids. Anyway, I thought, I'm really in good shape and I'm going to be fine. And this yoga instructor was like killer. She was amazing. An Iyengar instructor, which might not mean anything to people who don't do yoga, but it's a very strong school of yoga.
Okay.
And I thought, I can do this, no problem. I hadn't done yoga in years. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was in a downward dog, which I had forgotten how to do. Anyway, she comes over to me and they're very hands-on Iyengar instructors, and they don't worry, like now we're like, oh, I don't want to hurt, or like I'll get sued, and she just like shoved me down like about 4 more inches, and she said, life is too short to coast, Annabel. And I felt this, like I thought I was going to burst into tears. I thought, how did she know?
How did she know that about
I'm
me?
A coaster. I'm a bit of a coaster, I'm just like, yeah, it's like
let it go with the flow.
Go with the flow. I'm not going to try too hard. And so that was really the start of my practice, because she inspired me, and I went up like year after year after year. And then about 10 years ago, a friend of mine was actually doing her certification, her BCRPA, which is so you can teach like fitness in community centers and stuff. And I said, well, aren't we a little old to be doing that? She said, no, they want older women because that's the demographic, right, that you'd be teaching.
True.
So I did that with an eye to teaching fitness, but really I was doing, I loved yoga, and I thought, well, maybe I should teach yoga. No, I can't. I never ever thought in a million years I would ever be able to teach anybody anything. Really, people thought I would be teaching acting, and I went, no, I think you have to be a little less jaded to teach acting, And things had really slowed down for me at that point, really slowed down. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, I got to do something. So I went into training, and I started off with the BCRPA, which means you can teach at gyms and community centers, but then I did my 200-hour and my 300-hour and my yin and my restorative and my prenatal, and I just trained, and then I did like anatomy workshops and dissection workshops.
Man.
And I just,
you did all of it.
You never stop. You never stop. It is a lifelong process. Maybe it's many lifetime process.
Many lifetimes.
Many lifetimes. And so and then and that was the other thing that was amazing, was that the phone started ringing, not so much for acting work, but for, can you come and teach this class?
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And
crazy.
But I remember, and people were like, well, you're used to being in front of people, so it will be easy for you. And I'm like, no.
This is very, very different.
Very different, and I'm scared. And I remember standing in front of a class, my first time going, and raise your arms, and they all do it. And you're like, oh my God, they're doing what I'm telling them to do. And
I'm teaching.
Pull forward, and they're, oh my God. Yeah. So, and they're like, thank you. Oh, you're so good. I'm like,
Are you sure?
One of my teacher trainers said to me, why do you doubt yourself so much? And I said, because I come from an industry where there's so much criticism and rejection, and it gets into you. You like, you don't believe, like there's
that rejection
always that part.
Gets deep-seated sometimes.
Very much so.
Have you brought any of your yoga kind of mentality into acting?
Oh yeah, huge.
Mm-hmm. What are some of like the top 2 things that you've brought over?
Nothing is permanent.
Right, let's be real.
Yeah, kind of like to say I don't care is like, that's not the right way to put it, but it's just not life and death. Mm-hmm. It's important, and it means a lot to me, but I think I am calmer. I think maybe it's age. But yeah, I mean, I used to just be, oh my God, like I couldn't eat before a show, or I wouldn't sleep days before opening, and it's just not like that for me anymore. So I think like yoga's a funny thing because you know it's changing you, but you're not really that aware of it.
It's like a gradual kind of slow burn to change.
Yeah. Like someone will say, you know, you really are different. And I go, no, I am. Like they might notice it. It's
people will notice it before you do, though.
I think so.
For sure. Because then you went on to do film. You did, you've worked on like iZombie and all that kind of stuff. And you did quite a bit of Hallmark as well. The most recent one was The Angel Tree.
Yeah.
Playing Mimi. What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing.
It was a cute little fun thing.
Yeah.
Feel goods, feel goods.
I mean, thank you, Hallmark. Like I'm an older white woman. I need Hallmark. I mean, no, they are diversifying. Thank God. Absolutely.
But it's a source of income.
But it is. Oh, hey, 4 months of COVID and no teaching, right? I wasn't teaching.
Takes a hit.
So I am very grateful that this came along. It came along at the right time for sure. Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of small, day player stuff, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, maybe if I'm lucky. And really smaller roles. And this was a big role.
Yeah.
Like I was like number 5.
You're like, I was number 5 on the call sheet.
So there's the two leads, the 2 kids, and then me. So that was really great. I had 7 days on it, which is a nice big chunk. And you feel more like you're part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that Hallmark Films have always been really great experiences for me. The crew is universally nice, and I don't know, the feeling's just really great. Maybe because you're doing happy stories.
It's all good vibes.
Happy stories. And this was a great character because she's a little, again, I'm a little bit sassy, a little bit out there. And a lot of times I'm sort of put up for the nice mom and,
the sweet character.
Yeah, the sweet character. I'm not really that sweet, so.
I don't know why I keep going out for this. I'm not sweet.
I'm actually like a total bitch. Why don't they get this? So yeah, so that was really great, and of course it's airing now, right?
Yeah,
Christmas time.
I guess
so
time for it to come out.
And man, the closet Hallmarkers, like I am amazed at how many people watch these films that I wouldn't expect. They are not like little old ladies sitting in Nebraska.
No, there are some people who watch a lot of Hallmark films because they feel good and they're nice. And you would never know. And they don't talk about it.
Yeah,
they just
don't.
like,
people say, it's kind of like taking a Valium.
Holy crap.
And it was funny because I was watching one. Now I'm watching them. I'm going, oh, I didn't get that one, and I didn't get that one. I didn't get that because, we were all auditioning for them, right? It was like, I thought I was going to get that one. Oh, yeah, she got it. Oh,
Like, I see why.
I see why. Or I don't.
And sometimes like, Hallmark.
But anyway, there was one the other day. I hadn't auditioned for it, but there's a gay couple, right? And they kiss on screen. They're making out on screen. I'm like, I could hear the Bibles dropping all over Middle America. Really, like they're gonna hear about it.
They are.
They're gonna hear about it.
Yeah. For sure. You could hear people being like, I'm never watching Hallmark again. You'd be like, it's fine.
That's
really?
fine. Yeah.
We don't care. Oh, I love it. It's like taking a Valium. I'm going to borrow that. If anyone asks me how to describe Hallmark movies, it's like taking a Valium. Guys.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't sound too, but it is.
No, it's relaxing. It's easy. Feel good.
I started watting something.
You feel empowered after. You're like,
yeah.
It's like watching. Do you remember when they had? I don't know what it was called. I think it was called Popcorn Time on like Family Channel. They used to have Popcorn Time. It's for when I was a kid, and they had all the like feel good, like they had Camp Rock and like High School Musical and like Catching Pete and all that kind of stuff. They had like all those old Minutemen. It was all these old school but like really feel good Disney movies, and it was like the best thing on Friday nights ever when kids were growing up, and that's what that reminds me of.
Well, I remember being shocked at some of the stuff my kids were watching. I didn't patrol them that much. They were limited to how much they could watch, but I wasn't like as a kid. My parents didn't censor me from what I could read. I remember like finding like a dirty book. I found Fanny Hill in my parents' bookshelf, or like somewhere they had hidden it away, and I read it. My mother caught me reading, and she said. You don't need to hide to read it. Anything that we have in this house you can read. Like she didn't censor me.
I love that.
But I just couldn't sit there in the living room reading Fanny Hill with everybody sitting around. Anyway.
You're like, this is weird.
But when I was taken to anything I wanted to watch on TV or theater, anyway. And so I didn't with my kids. I thought they can figure it out. But I remember being kind of shocked at some of the stuff they were watching. I was like, oh my God.
My mother walked in on me, not like bad, but my mother walked in on me watching Game of Thrones, and a sex scene was on, like a really aggressive sex scene from the first season, so it's like super explicit. My mom comes in and she like screams at me like, what the hell are you watching? She thought I was watching something very different. I was like, how do I explain this is a TV show?
Not a hit TV show.
It's good.
Well, I mean, what kids, I was
like, oh no.
Have you seen Euphoria?
Yes. So
is this aimed at teenagers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's say it's.
There's another one called Baby. It's Italian. Have you seen that one?
I've not.
You don't watch that one.
You like this one?
And it's a true story.
Oh, so, crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, God.
It's good not to censor children from what they get to watch, though. I think it exposes them to good things in moderation.
Yeah.
It's not like super aggressive that like you think it could be like traumatizing when they're very, very young to watch something. But that's really, really good. I like that. I'll say on a kind of, because we're running out of time, on a final note, do you have any, I think, like words of wisdom or advice for people that are getting into this industry at all ages?
Yeah, I
think because a lot of people
I knew you would ask me that. A lot of people are what?
Of course. A lot of people get into this, like they're like, oh, it's directed at people just starting. But I'm curious about people at any age kind of getting into acting. Performing.
Well, if you're young, okay. I can only look at what I would have
done differently?
Yeah. I don't really have regrets because, how did I end up in Vancouver when I could have stayed in Toronto? And, my parents were horrified that I came to Vancouver. They wanted me to go to London or New York or something. I had lots of opportunity, but I chose Vancouver possibly because almost every decision I ever made was based on whatever love affair I was in at the time. Bad. Don't make your decisions based on your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Just not a good not a good way. But on the other hand, I have my amazing kids, and if I look at the steps that took me here, and I have no regrets that way because they are my my legacy really. Dance, play an instrument, learn to sing, like all of that. Honestly, the more things you can do, that's for certainly for theater. The more things you can do, the more opportunities you're going to have.
Yeah.
If you're older, because I know some people come back to it, they maybe, I want to get back into it. It ain't that easy. It really isn't.
For sure.
To go back into it, it's hard. There's so much competition.
You have to be ready, and for the competition that had stuck it out and was still there before you came back.
Yeah.
So it's a smaller pool of like respected, well-known acters.
Yeah. I mean, I've known a few people who have come back into film, and there's stuff there, but I guess don't put your I don't know. It was everything to me. Yeah. It was everything to the point of being like, I was full of anxiety and pain. Like, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain that goes way back.
Yeah.
And it still wells. I can still feel it, like even when I just think about it. So, love it, but don't
idolize it.
Yeah, kind of. It's really hard not to take it personally. It is personal. When people say, "Oh, it's not personal," it is personal.
It is your work.
It is personal. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't the right one. You know. If a guy says that to you, or a girl says that to you, or a woman says that to you, you're like, that's personal.
You're like, that hurts me.
It hurts me. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. I like that. Good to know. Good to know. So, to finish off, we have 7 questions.
They require short answers, probably.
You can take some time to think about it. Don't worry about that. Definitely, you probably will need to take some time to think about these.
Okay.
And because we're just going to start at number 7. We have 7. We'll just start with the last one.
Okay. 7 chakras.
It was meant to be. Number 7. What did you think was cool when you were younger, but isn't considered cool now?
Oh,
I've had some great answers to this question.
Pressure. What did I think was cool?
But like nowadays, you'd be like, not cool.
You might have to cut on this one. 'Cause I don't know. Double bubble.
The gum?
Yeah.
I remember that stuff.
Double bubble.
That was the shit when we were younger.
Yeah.
That was like.
And they had little cartoons in them. You would open them up and they had a little cartoon.
You could read them and be like, ooh, what's the cartoon
and
today?
how big a bubble could you
That
blow?
was the bubble gum. That was like the bubble gum.
Yeah.
They don't really make bubble gum anymore.
That might not even be, I don't know, maybe it's cool now because it's just so passé. You know?
It's cool because it wasn't. I like that, double bubble. Number 6.
Oh, and candy cigarettes. I just thought of that, candy cigarettes.
Are those not cool anymore? I thought those were cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
Kids were like,
that. Go back to the double bubble. All right.
I think it's just double bubble. It's fine.
Okay.
Number 6. If you were immortal or invincible for one day, what would you get up to? No risk of injury, no risk of death. 24 hours. What would you do?
Oh, fly.
Thank you.
Oh, without question.
Nobody, everyone, I love answers people give, but in my head I would be like, I would fly. I would 100% fly.
Yeah, absolutely. I would fly. Yeah.
Yes. I agree. Number 5.
I don't want to be invisible and hear what people are saying about me.
It's too much. It's way too much.
Yeah.
Jump off a building and fly?
Yeah.
Number 5. What fact amazes you every time you think about it? And it'd be like a fact about life, a fact about a caterpillar. I love caterpillars. A fact about anything. Just kind of amazes you when you think about it.
I guess that we can grow human beings inside us.
That's a good answer.
It's pretty amazing, and whether that's a human or a puppy or whatever, I think that is pretty. I think everything to do with the body is magical and mysterious.
Yeah.
And I have looked inside bodies, so I really do. It is astonishing to me what the human body is, what it does.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Number 4. What's the weirdest thing you did as a child?
Well, I was.
Well.
I guess I had some nervous issues. I ate my bed sheets.
Can you repeat that for me, please?
I was.
Really?
Yeah. Especially if my mother was away. My parents traveled a fair bit, and I really missed my mother. And I was also sent to camp when I was really little. My parents were British. It was like, you send your kids away at every opportunity. And I was sent to camp for a month when I was like 5 or 6.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know. That's child abuse now. And I used to lie in bed, and of course, if you cried, you were teased. And I would eat chew on my sheets. And so my sheets looked like the mice had gotten at them.
That's crazy.
I know.
So
I used
you
to
were
suck
5 or
on
6 all by yourself.
my collars too. Yeah, it's like I kind of oral fixation. I don't know, but it was like
But I did.
Yeah.
I have that with pen caps. Like if I have like the back of a pen, I will chew like while I'm thinking. I'll just nibble, like just chew on it. And so many of my pencils in high school had like those bite marks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was like,
so yeah, well, for me it was bed sheets.
Number 3, what is one thing people do that pisses you off more than anything?
Oh God, that's a really tough one because it's such a litany, right?
It's either that. It's either like people are like, I'm gonna have to think about this, or someone's like, yes, I know exactly what it is.
There's so many things. well, okay, let's leave driving out of it.
Fair.
One thing that people do that pisses me off. Well, I don't know. Okay.
One of your tops, doesn't have to be the most.
Yeah, well, I really, really don't like it when this is driving, but it really bugs me when people decide to turn left when they've been sitting there at the traffic light and you're sitting behind them, and then they go, oh, I think I'll turn left here.
And you're like,
I
just wanted to go.
That's kind of really a common,
But I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Whatever, it's like, don't do that. Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to ram your car. Number 2, if you could know the absolute truth to one question, what question would you ask?
No. Afterlife.
What's after?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But somebody else said to me, there's no point in actually spending a lot of time thinking about it, and it's like, we're not going to know. Like, we're
That's
not going to
true.
know
Until it's over.
Yeah.
And then
I sometimes want to know how people can be so sure. How can you be so sure of whatever it is you're so sure of? There's so little I'm sure of.
Yeah, but some people are sure about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
So,
Huh.
yeah.
Interesting. And number 1, what's the biggest lie you ever told? Please don't incriminate yourself on camera. That's the only thing that you're willing to share.
Yeah, I think too many people have to die for me to answer that question.
Like, there's too many people still living. I can't.
Yeah, sorry. It's true. There are too many. Maybe I should say that too.
I like the way you said it. I like the way you said it.
I don't think I can answer that one.
All right. Please note, she has left this question unanswered. And that is all.
I'll email it to you if I can think of one that doesn't incriminate me.
Please. And that's everything I have for you. Thank you so much for coming in and doing this.
welcome.
This was
That
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. We
I
laughed a
learned
lot.
You know what? It's not the worst. I enjoy laughing.
Yeah, it's really important. I don't know if we have time for this, but somebody said, because I'm a sort of smiley person, people, and it's a little bit of a, well, you smile so much. Well, you're always smiling. And I go, it's the natural facelift. It is.
It's what makes me look young.
Yes, it's like turn the corners up. It's like lifts everything.
All right, this is advice I'm walking away with.
Yeah.
Smile more,
That
guys.
and bangs. The French Botox.
The French Botox. Just hide it. It's fine. We're cool. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching this episode of Actors in Conversation. You know we don't do it without you, so thank you guys so much. Click down at the bottom to subscribe. We have links to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And we will see you next time on Actors in Conversation. Bye, guys.